The hidden truth of Pokemon Go. This is something that Niantic does not want their players to be aware of, nor do I think Niantic themselves are aware of this problem. But I really do think that when Scopely Inc. takes over the development of Pokemon Go, and if they want to see a return on their investment, then they need to fix this issue and make Pokemon Go much better for pretty much everyone, which currently it is not. Alright, what's happening everyone? Count Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. Hope your day is going really well. Let's get right into it. So today is going to be one of those off-the-cuff discussion videos where I'm just going to be talking about some of my thoughts regarding the game. And this time I want to tackle an issue with Pokemon Go that has gone unaddressed for pretty much since the beginning. And I've talked to Niantic about this. I've had many good chats with people like Michael Staranka. I've had chats with former community leaders, and it really seems like this particular issue is something that they claim to be aware of, but they don't see it as a major issue. And what exactly am I talking about? Well, when it comes to Pokemon Go, even if you live in an urban, highly populated area, it just seems like this game requires an insane amount of travel. It basically is a game that is unplayable unless you have a car. And yeah, this is something you don't often hear about. This is not something that a lot of players will openly discuss, but when it comes to Pokemon Go, if you're not able to drive around, you're going to be missing out on a lot when it comes to this game. Even for stuff like special events like Pokemon Go Fest and Pokemon Go Tour, the global versions of those events. If you're not traveling to a highly populated area, you're not going to get the most out of those events. And the same can be said for community days, the same can be said for Wednesday raid hours. No matter where you are located, if you're not able to move around, you're not going to get a lot out of this game. It's just something that I feel like is a unfortunate truth about Pokemon Go. And I really do think that overall there's a lot of things Niantic, or I should say Scopely, could do to fix this issue. They could have a lot more remote gameplay. I think one of the biggest mistakes that Niantic ever did was nerfing remote raids. I think that's something that Scopely Inc. should definitely retract as soon as they take over. And for a lot of the things that Niantic pushed on Pokemon Go, I think it was the wrong direction. A lot of people will say that yes, this is an exploration and an outdoor-based game, and I totally agree with that. I think the most fun you can have is when you go out and explore and catch Pokemon, and you don't necessarily just stay in place. There's definitely a lot of merit to that. But I will say that when it comes to Pokemon Go, there's just a huge grindy aspect to it, and they don't really do a whole lot for you unless you're driving around. Because if you stay within a certain area, yes, you're going to get a good number of Pokemon. If there happens to be Pokestops and gyms, you're going to get some pretty decent gameplay out of that. But overall, it is a game where you do need to travel quite extensively to get the most out of the game. And this is the most apparent with stuff like in-game events. I really do think that overall, Niantic has done a little bit better with in-game events, especially this year. But if you look at those in-game events, a lot of the in-game bonuses, a lot of the wild spawns, and a lot of the things that actually matter to players, they're all stuff you need to essentially drive for. And I know some players will disagree with me. They will say that all you have to do is go outside and go on a walk, and you will get pretty much everything that you need. To some degree, that might be true, but I will say that if you want to take your gameplay to the next step, if you want to get the best of the best Pokemon, if you want to get the most Stardust out of this game, if you want to, I don't know, with Buddy Adventure, for example, if you want to get best buddies with your Pokemon, whatever the goals may be, you need to travel quite a lot. And I think because of that, there is a lot of limitations for a majority of players, especially those who live in rural areas, for example. I think this is something that Niantic has failed to address for pretty much the last several years. They have not really addressed the rural problem. Yes, there are certain things that rural players have that people in cities do not have. In particular, Pokestop showcases come to mind. I do think that if you live in a rural area, you're going to have a unique advantage when it comes to that. And when it comes to, when it comes to raids and like raid challenges, a lot of players who live in rural areas, they tend to be better players because they actually have to try And a lot of times they won't be able to complete the raids unless they're soloing them or they're dueling them with a friend. And because of that, they tend to invest a lot more into their Pokemon. But regardless of all that, I feel like if you live in a rural area, you're going to have such a miserable experience, and this is why you see so many people who spoof. This is why you see so many people who drive while playing. And it's because if they just go around their neighborhood, they're going to have maybe one Pokestop, maybe one gym, and not that many Pokemon spawns, and because of that, they're going to drive out and go to different areas in order to get more out of this game. And yeah, driving while playing is definitely unsafe. It definitely produces a lot of unnecessary things with Pokemon Go that I think can be mitigated. You know, that you don't really hear about it as often nowadays, but there's a lot of people who get into accidents. There's a lot of people who unintentionally commit crimes like trespassing, and it's because they're driving while playing Pokemon Go. They're creating a hazard for their local communities, and I think this is something that Niantic should have avoided from the beginning, but a lot of the gameplay that they add to Pokemon Go, it just seems like it encourages people to go out and drive while playing. And this is something that I've personally experienced. There were times where we would have raid days or chain raiding, or even with community days, we'd go out and look for big spawn points. And it really comes down to you just having to drive. And yeah, some people will say that is the best way to play Pokemon Go. Waffle raiding can be done while walking. It depends on the location where you live. But most times it requires you to drive. And yeah, if you can find yourself a really good spot, then maybe all you have to do is just go there, and then you don't have to worry about driving around to get all the Pokemon. Like for Pokemon Go Fest and Pokemon Go Tour, I always go to Navy Pier or Lincoln Park Zoo. Those are the best spots in the Chicagoland area. All I have to do is drive to those locations, and I could just park myself there, and I have a whole day to just catch whatever Pokemon without having to drive. But the very fact is, I had to drive to those locations. I had to travel to those locations. And sure, maybe some people will say that's part of the experience, but if you're paying $15, $20 for these global Go Fest tickets, and you're only able to play from your home because you do not have a car or you have no means to travel to high populated areas, you're gonna not get your money's worth. You're going to lose out on a lot of that value. And for the most part, you're gonna get ripped off. That's essentially the nature of Pokemon Go. So I really do think that for a lot of the things that Niantic charges for, like if you're gonna be buying tickets for Pokemon Go Fest, for example, then you should be able to get everything that you need from home. I really do not like the fact that everything in this game requires you to travel. And yeah, I totally understand there's gonna be people who will say, that is a part of the game, and I totally recognize that. But I also feel like a part of that is because many of you probably were gaslit, unfortunately, either by Niantic or by content creators like myself. They're saying that this is a part of the game, it's how you should be playing it. And unfortunately, not everyone lives in a highly populated city like most content creators. That's something that I don't think a lot of people realize. And then for Niantic themselves, they always develop Pokemon Go with the context of them being inside a major city, San Francisco. Everything that they develop, they go out and test it in San Francisco, which is a very highly populated area. If you've ever been to San Francisco, there's Pokestops and gyms everywhere. So if they implement any kind of new gameplay mechanic, they have no idea what it's like to play these mechanics within a suburban setting or in a rural setting. They just do not know. So yeah, I think that has caused major issues. It has caused a lot of problems, especially for people who live in those areas. And I really do think that when Scopely Inc. takes over, maybe this is something they will address. Maybe this is something that they will look into. Because like I said, there's not going to be that pressure for them to focus on geospatial technology. They don't have to try to get location data from their players. That was such a huge emphasis from Niantic because they wanted to develop AR technology and mapping technology. And that pressure is no longer a part of Pokemon Go. They could add a lot more remote gameplay. They could add a lot more at-home gameplay. And I really hope they do, because for the longest time, I just feel like Pokemon Go is a game that has so much potential. And I'm not saying it has to be a game you fully play from home, but it is a game where I feel like you should be able to get more if you do not live in a major city. And you really shouldn't have to drive in order to mostly enjoy this game. So yeah, that's just the thing that I want to talk about. It's just something that's been on my mind as I play Pokemon Go. Lately, I've been going after Shiny Blacephalon, and I caught myself driving to raids. Like, I would see a raid on Niantic Campfire, and I would drive to those raids. I wouldn't be playing while driving, of course. I think that's completely unsafe, but the very fact that I'm spending gas, the very fact that I'm spending a majority of my day driving to these locations rather than being able to walk to them, I think that just speaks volumes on just how properly or improperly designed Pokemon Go is. So yeah, that's just something I want to share, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be people out there who are just going to completely disagree with me, and I totally understand that. If that happens to be you, I would like to know your opinions. Definitely share them in the comments below. We can have a great discussion around this. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe the game needs to have travel involved in order for you to fully enjoy it. Maybe it's just the nature of what this game was meant to be. And maybe you see that and I don't. I really do not know, but yeah, I would love to know your comments down below. And yeah, hopefully we can have a great discussion. That would be great. But in any case, that's going to be it for this discussion video. If you ended up enjoying it, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. And don't forget that notification bell so you can stay up to date on whenever I upload Pokemon Go discussion videos just like this one. And if you want to support my channel, make sure you go and check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to it in the description below. And it's going to be the best way to support everything that I do. If you want to become a friend on my friends list, that's basically how you can do it. I'm going to add you if you become a paid Patreon member. And that means for stuff like remote raids and the friendship system. If you want to play Pokemon Go with me, then yeah, make sure you go and check out my Patreon. And if you want to support my channel in a completely different way, make sure you go and follow my socials. My handle is @Jinsula. I'm on the platforms that you see on the bottom of your screen. Yeah, make sure you go over there and give me a follow. I'll give you access to some exclusive content that I'm only posting on my socials. And yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you all later.